Hi, this is Pat Iyer with Legal Nurse Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about something that affects you in your business, which is how you most clearly and efficiently take advantage of social media to reach your target audience. Today I'm speaking with Lisa Demmi, who I met in Florida at a National Speakers Association chapter meeting. She is a speaker, a coacher, and a trainer, and she is a master egg poacher. All right. You know, I don't think I've ever had poached eggs in my life, Lisa, so that's an interesting twist to your personality that I didn't know anything about. And Lisa loves social media and shows people how to not only embrace it, but to put it into a headlock and execute a figure 8 on it. She helps companies, organizations, and individuals with social media to create relationships. And we know it's all about establishing relationships with our clients and potential clients. Mm-hmm. She helps people see the power of social media by increasing their understanding of the best platform to use. Lisa, welcome to the show. I'm so pleased that you could join me today.
Thanks for having me, Pat. I was tickled that you asked me.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about, why do we need social media? What's the bottom line behind how it helps people who are business owners?
Well, social media is a unique tool where you can actually have conversation. You mentioned the fact about that I show people how to create relationships. I think digital media gives you an opportunity to extend that that personality, that can make a connection with so many more people than you can in the real world. And I think anymore, in order to be competitive, you have to be out there trying to create relationships with people. And what's good about that is let them get to know you. Buyers are so much more, they're smarter now, and they want to know more about you now. And I think social media gives you that unique opportunity to do that, where a website doesn't necessarily do it, or a business card or a billboard or an ad in a newspaper. So social media is just a great tool for relationship building.
And we know from our experiences networking and working with attorneys that they really like to meet people face to face. They evaluate us based on what they see on our profiles. They go to our websites. They check us out before they would even think about working with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what this allows you to do is, people say that one of the questions I get asked a lot is people say, well, what if they don't like me? And I'm like, good. Let them find out that they don't like you way up front. Then, typically when you meet someone, you're like, okay, well, let's have coffee, or let's have a meeting. Let's get on a phone call. Let's, you meet with them 1, 2, 3 times. And to find out that you're not a good fit, imagine if you could find out that you're not a good fit before you even go through any of that. We're all so busy. It would be really a benefit for you to be able to use your time more efficiently than, a couple, 3 hours or so with someone to find out they're not a good fit.
That's an interesting point, and I'm thinking about a speaker I heard at the National Speakers Association Winter Conference, mm-hmm. who many of the audience loved. And I knew immediately when he first started talking that he was talking too fast and he was talking too loud. Mm-hmm. And I had that instant reaction to him at the end of 45 minutes of listening to him speaking too fast, and I couldn't follow about 25% of what he was saying. I couldn't follow. I had a pounding headache from being with him. So it was an immediate reaction, and I knew that there wasn't any way that I was going to want to stay in touch with him. Our chemistries didn't match. I took Tylenol. I calmed myself down. I think sometimes we forget that type of instantaneous reaction helps us filter out the people.
Yes, ma'am.
And it helps them filter out, I don't want to work with this legal nurse consultant, or I don't want to interact with this business person. That's not your ideal audience.
Correct. And that's why I caution people, well, not caution, but I encourage them to be really authentic on social media so that they're representing themselves in a true fashion. if you act one way on social media and then you act another way in real life, because, you know, social media isn't all the marketing you have to do, but it's your foot in the door, and then you have to take it offline. And social media allows you to get a feel for the personality, a feel for the way they speak, a feel for who they are and how they handle things before you even have to sit with them or even consider learning more about them.
Mm-hmm. You're right. We reveal ourselves by what we post, what we say. Mm-hmm. Where should we be posting, and what should we be saying if we're trying to attract that ideal client, that attorney who we want to work with?
Okay. I think for your specific audience, I think you really should be on LinkedIn quite a bit. So I would say LinkedIn is the platform that I would start with. If you're only going to do one platform, do LinkedIn. That being said, obviously the more platforms you do, the wider your reach is. But I would caution you that, I think people have in their mind that they have to be on every single platform, and they don't. I would secure all of your platforms. So like, for instance, if you have social media for legal nurse, you would want to have all of the platforms that you might ever consider using, let me try. It's a good thing I'm a professional speaker, right? You would want to have legal nurse on all of those platforms, whether you're going to use it or not. But what I always tell people is you only want to be active on the pages that you're actually going to be able to manage, because it is a conversation. And imagine if you and I were talking and it was one-sided. It wouldn't be a very good conversation, would it? So you want to do social media.
I saw the power of social media several years ago and went out and secured Pat Iyer as my identity on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Good.
There is another Pat Iyer in the world who is a nurse who is in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I tried to connect with her one time and on LinkedIn, and I said, "Hi, Pat Iyer. I'm Pat Iyer. Would you like to connect?" And she ignored me. She probably thought this was some weird thing.
Right.
But I know a little bit about her. I do know that she didn't come to social media as early as I did. But what happens if somebody has the name that you already own? I mean, it's your name, right, but they've already got that name tied up in social media. Is there any alternative for what you can do when you're establishing your profiles?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on, like you said, she's not very active. So in my mind, it's, people might find her, but if you want to distinguish yourself, then you can also always add in many of the platforms, you can always add in a dash or a period or something like that, so that it does distinguish itself from another platform. On some of them, you cannot have the same name. So if you were to have a Facebook like a public figure page, and she already had, for whatever reason, she had Pat Iyer, Facebook/Pat Iyer, then you would not be able to have that. So you would have to change it or adjust it some way so that you could still use it. That being said, you can have the same name on Instagram. You can have the same name on Twitter. You can have the same name on LinkedIn. But it's not really too much of a problem as long as you're active on it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. Mm-hmm. Particularly that she's not. Now, if you were both active on it, then I would definitely do something to distinguish yourself from her. But in this instance, I'd just leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. And this is a side question. I've been hearing about a platform called Tik Tok.
Yes.
Tell me about it, because I know nothing about it.
I love TikTok, actually. I just started using it about maybe three months ago. Well, let me see, October, so 6-ish months ago. And TikTok is it's a video platform. You can put pictures on there as well, but I think it's best used with video. And what it is you have 59 seconds to share something. It is, in my opinion, it's great for entrepreneurs. It's great for thought leaders. It's great for speakers. I do think it's really good for, but I see a lot of millennials on there. I think that is more of a platform for them. And that being said, I'm certainly not a millennial and I use it. But what it is it's another way to package content to get your message across. But what I see a lot of people doing is they use TikTok as a pointer to their Instagram page, which is smart, because Instagram, you have a lot more options than you do with TikTok. Instagram, you can do the long form video, you can do stories, you can do the pictures. I think TikTok is best used to direct people elsewhere. It certainly is an exposure magnet, for lack of a better way of explaining it, but you cannot do everything on there. You have to send them somewhere else.
You had 59 seconds on TikTok. Is there a limitation in the length of a video for Instagram?
Yes, for Instagram, I believe for stories, it's 15 seconds. So you have a series of 15-second videos. For regular Instagram, I want to say it is now, I believe it used to be 30 seconds. Now I believe it's 60 seconds. But if you use IGTV, you have as long as you want. That's the long form version of Instagram.
Well, now that we're on the subject of video, tell me, what are your thoughts about the value of video? Is it something that we should be spending a lot of time focusing on?
You should do. If you're not doing video, you're missing out already. Video is the biggest growing platform in the last probably 5 years. The way I like to explain it is we're lazy. We don't want to read a blog post. We'd rather listen to a podcast or watch a video. And it makes it easier for us because we don't have to fiddle through the content. You can listen to a video. Like, the best thing about video is actually the audio. The video can be horrible, but if the audio is clear, it really doesn't matter. Which is not to say, don't have good video. You want good video as well. But video, I think, we talked about relationship, and it allows people to see how you interact, how you move your hands, how you phrase words. And like you said, that guy that you saw at the winter conference, seeing him, you were already like, no, this guy's not for me. Video could do the same thing. It's just not necessarily always live.
Mm-hmm. What held me back for years from doing any video, especially brief videos, was the concept that it would be complicated. It would require a lot of equipment. I would have to figure out how to edit the video if I messed up. Can you help us deal with those concepts?
Yes, ma'am. I shoot all of my video on my phone. I would tell you 99.99% of my video I shoot on my phone, I edit it on my phone, and I upload it on my phone. And we're talking from start to finish, I can probably get a video up on almost all the platforms that I use and YouTube in maybe 15 minutes. There are apps that you can use that make it so easy anymore that really the cost factor and the complication factor should not be an issue anymore. I think people still say, oh my God, I look stupid on video, or I sound funny on video. I understand those, but anymore, I'm not a videographer, and I'm certainly not a video editor. But for all of my clients and me, I prefer to do it all on my phone, and it's just not that difficult.
Can you take us through the process of how you create the video, edit it, and upload it?
Sure. So I typically know what I'm going to talk about. I don't script it, but I typically know what I'm going to talk about. I usually am telling a story of something that happened, and then relaying the lesson and how it matches with the story I'm telling. And all I do is I hold the phone in front of me. I do have a tripod back here that I use occasionally, but I don't do anything fancy. I hold the phone in front of me. I do have a mic if I'm going to be far away from the phone, but typically I'm holding it like this, able to hear, and that's really how I'm doing it. Once I've got the video uploaded to or recorded on my phone, then I open up an app that I use called Videoshop. There is a free version and there's a paid for version, and I want to say the paid for version is $9.99 a month, I think, something like that.
$9.99.
I believe so. I wasn't prepared to answer that, so I don't quote. Well, I'm saying it.
That's all right. I don't think we would believe that it would be $990 a month. So that's okay. That's pretty clear.
But what you do is you import your video into this app, and it's got such great capacity. You can add text to it. You can trim your clips. You can add music. You can add a voiceover. You can add graphics. You can slow the image or slow the video down or speed the video up. You can use filters. I know I'm not getting everything, but there's so much that you can do. It looks really professional. I mean, for doing it on your phone, it's a really beefy app. And then what I do is I will save it to my phone. I'll save the video to my phone, and then I will upload it to all of the platforms that it will fit. So for instance, I will upload it to LinkedIn if it's not too long. I will definitely upload it to Facebook. I will upload it to IGTV, the long form Instagram. If it's short enough, I will just upload it to the regular Instagram. It typically is not. And then I will also upload it to YouTube so that I can get my YouTube link. And then I'll share the YouTube link to Twitter, because you can't upload long form video to Twitter. And I'm also doing, if it's 59 seconds or shorter, I'm uploading it to TikTok. And that takes me maybe 15 minutes, depending on how much editing I'm putting. And I'm not doing a ton of editing.
That is wonderful, Lisa.
Yeah.
Think about how that would have been impossible to do even a few years ago.
Yeah. 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 Now
Amazing.
I've been using Videoshop since maybe 2012. It has gotten updated and improved a little bit, but the truth is I don't use all of the fancy stuff. I use the basics, and I do have the premium version because I want to do I want to be able to put images on there. But it's just, I use a few other ones too, but I find that Videoshop is the easiest and the best to use, and the most, I think, the most user-friendly.
I was held back for years by thinking that Camtasia was difficult to learn. I bought version 6, I bought version 9, I never opened it. And then one day I sat there and said, I'm going to figure this out. And it took me about 20 minutes watching little videos about how to use Camtasia, which enables me, like for this video that I'm doing right now, I'll be able to put your name under the video so it shows up. I can add in the bumper at the end, which is the little commercial that ends my YouTube videos. But I allowed it to intimidate me. And I think for somebody who's listening to this, my message to you is don't let yourself get intimidated by the idea, oh, video editing, that means I have to learn some complicated program. You're probably doing your edits right now, Lisa, with your finger and a few taps on your keyboard to make changes, and it's that easy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I taught myself. I don't even think I watched any of the tutorials, and I just get around on the app. And, a good friend of mine told me, just be curious about the new things that you're learning and don't be intimidated by them, because if you frame it that way, then all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, I'm curious how this will work. Not, I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about content. You just mentioned creating videos by telling stories. Are you always sharing your own content? Do you advise the person listening to this to share somebody else's content? What do we do in terms of what goes into our social media posts?
That's a great question. I typically share, I would say I share mostly my own content. But there are times when I might tell a story of something that happened to someone else, provided it's not going to be anything that would be embarrassing or bad for, like, I would never do anything that would put anybody in a weird position. But there might be a story that someone tells me that happen to them that fits in with what I'm talking about. I might use that to support that lesson for the day. Plus, I like to talk about events of the day. I've heard it called newsjacking, and basically what you're familiar with it. Yeah, so I like to bring in news of the day and add in some of those things, because I want to, not as an agenda, but if it absolutely does relate to some lesson I'm trying to share, then I think it helps people connect with what you're talking about a little bit more, because they've been hearing about it so much. And sharing other people's information sometimes also, if it's a reputable source, helps to support what you're talking about. So like if I said, Entrepreneur Magazine says you should do this, this, and this in marketing. Well, Entrepreneur Magazine is a very reputable, trusted source. So if they're saying the same thing I'm saying, I want people to know, because I make what I'm saying look like it's more credible.
And I think you're making a great point about sharing reputable information and attributing it. One of the things that the National Speakers Association, of which Lisa and I are both members, emphasizes to speakers is that it is unethical to share somebody else's information or story and claim it as your own.
Correct.
And that has happened in our association, sometimes in very memorable ways, where somebody gets called out for sharing a story and pretending it's their own material.
Yeah, never, ever, ever take credit for someone else's story, even if you change it to fit your own. Whenever I tell a story about someone else, I always make sure that I'm giving credit to the person directly if they've said I can do that, or I'm saying, here's a story that's not mine that I think helps support what we're talking about. But I have enough of my own stories. I don't need to take anyone else's.
Right.
I'm Cuban and Italian. I got a big family. I got plenty of stories.
I know that speakers talk about standing in front of an audience, a live audience, and watching people in their audience fact-checking them as they are speaking, sitting there with their cell phones going, oh, no, it's not, what she just said is not true. Excuse me. So it keeps us on the straight and narrow.
I have been challenged before from the stage. Yeah, it's not fun, but that's why I don't make things up. If I don't know the answer, or if I don't know what I'm talking about, I either don't share it or say, listen, I don't know everything there is to know about this. Here's what I do know. It's okay to say on social media that you don't know something. I think that being vulnerable helps you connect with that person on the other side of the screen, because I think they can tell when you're not being truthful or you're not being honest. And I think letting them see when you make a mistake, it's like I have had plenty of coaches before, and I had this one coach who I kind of had on a pedestal, and one time the first time she made a mistake, I was kind of happy. I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to be perfect. She's a person like I am. So I think people connect with when you let them see some of the ugly sometimes. I think that makes people feel like, oh, okay, she goes through that same thing too. Yes, okay, I get it.
I've been thinking about creating a video called Outtakes to show the things that have gone wrong when I've been doing videos. And I started thinking about this on a couple of days ago, because I sat on a lanai in Orlando, created 7 videos, and there's a stream that was running by my lanai at this resort where I was staying. And after I recorded 7 videos, I went back and listened to one and realized that the fountain that was in that little stream, which I thought wouldn't be picked up by my microphone, it sounded like a toilet was flushing in the background. And that made me think about the helicopter that went by in Baltimore when I was shooting, and my most memorable experience of shooting a video in Colorado and turning around, and there was a wild cow that was directly behind me listening to my wonderful tips that I was giving on the video. I turned around and this cow is staring at me, and I thought, Oh, great. Photobombed by a cow on the top of a mesa in Colorado. Who could have expected that?
But sometimes those kinds of things are the most memorable things. And people go, people will say, oh, she's the cow lady or whatever, but
Right.
they'll remember you.
Uh-huh. I had a guy who was taking my video, and he wasn't looking in the cell phone viewer, and the camera keeps going down and down. So by the end of the video, you can't see my mouth at all. Like I'm trying to bring in footage to cover up the fact that my face is slowly going down in the view screen. One of the benefits of using tripods when you are recording is making sure that your face doesn't disappear as you are talking.
Agreed. Yes.
Any last tips for us, Lisa, on how we can get all of this done in our lives in terms of sharing our knowledge on social media?
Yeah. I think the thing that people freak out about is they think they don't know what to talk about. And you do know what to talk about, because I bet you get asked the same 10 questions over and over and over again. And those are your first 10 things to talk about. So the way I like to tell people is write up a list and have it a list. And it's a list of the questions you can ask, and a list of, and we're not always talking about ourselves. Sometimes we're talking about other things that support what we do, or we're talking about humor, or we're talking about local events, or whatever it is. Don't always talk about yourself, because that's selling. You don't want to sell, you want to tell. Okay. Selling, we all skip through the commercials. Everybody, gets up and, goes and gets a drink on the commercial, or we fast forward through the commercials, or we have a streaming channel that doesn't share the commercials because we don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that on social media either. So think about that when you're creating your content, and you want to entertain or educate or both. If you can do both, home run. But I think make sure your content is relevant. Make sure that your content lands on the listener. As nurses, as a legal nurse, you probably have lingo that we would go, huh? Don't use the lingo. Use lingo that we would, use words that we would understand. And then just be really consistent and make sure that you play, it's a conversation. It's not always about what you're sharing. Sometimes it's about what they're contributing and how you can help them with that.
Mm-hmm. Our business is filled with stories of cases of things that have happened to people. There is an infinite number of ways that people can get injured in this world. One of the things that you discover quickly as you start working with attorneys is that there are holes in the safety net of the healthcare system that people fall through. We do have to be careful when we're sharing stories that we're talking about cases that have been resolved, not active ones that we're working on, because there's a very real possibility that there could be an attorney or a legal nurse consultant on the other side of that active case who is paying attention to what we're posting or saying or asking questions about. In fact, a legal nurse consultant who's part of my network recently sent me an email message that said she went for a deposition, and the attorney had been gathering posts that this person made and confronted her in deposition by saying, here, you sent an email out to this listserv and asked this specific question, which was about the case. She didn't identify the name of the case, but the attorney recognized the case because it was an unusual circumstance. So it made me more aware of the fact that you're never invisible when you're posting on social media. And that's one of the challenges that we have to work with as legal nurse consultants.
And even if you put it out there and you go, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have shared that, it's already out there. Somebody already saw it.
Oh yeah, there's no undo button.
No, it's out there. It's once it's done, it can't be, what is it? You can't put the genie back in the bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How can our listeners find out more about the services you offer, Lisa?
So I have a website. It's Lisa Demmi, LisaDemmi.com. All my social media is pretty much Lisa Demmi. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Not Pinterest. because that's the black hole of social media for me. And then you can reach out to me, Lisa at lisademmi.com, if you want to reach out to me directly. Unfortunately, I have this thing with me most of the time, and I will respond pretty quickly.
And for people listening to this audio, Lisa just held up her phone.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing your wisdom and your tips. I think the biggest takeaways for me for this program is looking into Videoshop as an app on your phone. Don't make editing your videos any more difficult or intimidating than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Take advantage of the tools that are sitting right there on your cell phone. Check out Tik Tok as a way to share a 59-second video. And I think most importantly, take a look at those questions that you get asked all the time. The top 10, I can think of several that attorneys ask about legal nurse consultants that helps you be understandable and personable with your audience. If you're sharing stories, always attribute the source. Don't pretend that you have created the information, because you will get caught, for sure. And when you are focusing your efforts on social media, make sure that you're being genuine, showing your personality, being accurate, being discreet, which is so important for us when we're working on legal cases, and have fun with it. If you can be entertaining as well as educational, people will follow you and pay attention to what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to you who is watching this video or listening to this podcast. Be sure to share with other legal nurse consultants that Legal Nurse Podcasts exists. We are now 3.5 years into broadcasting and so appreciate the fact that this show is giving you value. Thanks so much.